All right, it is 6:30, so we will reconvene a meeting of the Oregon School District Board of Education. It is Monday, April 8th. We are at the OST Innovation Center at Oregon High School. We did open the meeting this evening with a committee of the whole, so we did approve the agenda, and we did table action item number 5, which is the DNR grant, so that will be discussed and acted on the future meeting, but we do have 4 other action items, and then the board will be going into closed session at the end of the regular meeting. So again, that agenda has been approved, and so now we will move into the consent calendar. And so I have, we do have one staff retirement, Kristen Onsager, who's a 4th grade teacher at Prairie View, who served us for 9 years, so she will be retiring at the end of this school year. So we want to thank Kristen for her service to the Oregon School District. And then we have the following donations, which I will read. $743.73 for field trip transportation from the Friends of the Orchestra, $100 for the admin scholarship from Jim Pliner, and then these 3 donations from the Oregon Athletic Boosters, $3,600 for girls lacrosse parkas, $7,069.70 for track starting blocks, $2,625 for girls soccer parkas. And then we have a $4,500 donation from the Brooklyn PTO for Brooklyn teachers' needs. And then $32 from Wilhelm and Laura Harm for the OMS German 8th grade class field trip to New Glarus. $15 from Lucas and Tara Schroeder for the same OMS German 8th grade class field trip to New Glarus. And then we have a donation from $300 from Rotary International, which is the Oregon Rotary Club, to OMS for Lerner Park. So we want to thank those entities and those individuals for their donations to the Oregon School District. Okay, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I move to approve the consent calendar as printed.
Is there a second? All right, we have a motion and a second. Katie, could you please call the roll?
Mr. Pankratz?
Yes.
Dr. Lakuta?
Yes.
Ms. Bijak?
Yes.
Dr. Bush?
Yes.
Ms. Flanagan?
Yes, motion carries. What are there? 5 of us. 5-0. Okay, moving on to C, information items. Number 1 is public comment, and so I will read that policy since we do have people here for public comment. District Policy 180.05 provides an opportunity for the public to address the board. We value the public comment period and feedback from our stakeholders. To comply with open meetings law and to ensure consistency, public comment will have the following parameters. Speakers will have 3 minutes in which to make their comments. Ms. Katie Heitz will signal the speaker when the time is up. The board will not comment after each speaker and will reserve discussion to any items on the agenda, and speakers are welcome to stay for the meeting. Next steps following public comment may include referral to the appropriate administrator for follow-up with the speaker or placement of the matter on a future board agenda. All right, so when I call each person's name, if they could come up to the microphone and then give their address. We know they're an Oregon School District resident, and then they will have the mic. So first on the list is Ruth Greiber.
Hello. My address is 333 Oakmont Street in Oregon. Then I just start? All right. My name's Ruth Greiber, and I have 3 students in the Oregon School District, and I am also the president of the Oregon Choral Boosters. My oldest daughter is in 7th grade at OMS and has been an active participant in OSD vocal music classes since she was in 3rd grade. I am here tonight to advocate for a 0.25 FTE increase in vocal music staffing so that 1.0 FTE would be at OMS and 1.0 FTE would be shared between RCI and FES. There is currently a staff member working in the district who could absorb the additional FTE that is being requested. So this year and historically, 5th and 6th grade students who are enrolled in both band and orchestra at RCI and FES are able to access small group learning opportunities weekly, while students enrolled in vocal music at the 5th and 6th grade levels do not have that really important opportunity. Similar to band and orchestra, where instruments vary and small group learning opportunities provide the opportunity to personalize and tailor lessons to specific instruments and skill sets, choral students' voices vary widely, and a chance to work with specific skill sets, as well as alto, soprano, and changing voice choirs would allow our students a personalized and more rigorous experience in vocal music at the 5th and 6th grade levels. Currently at OMS, students in 7th and 8th grade do receive weekly small group lessons, which is equitable to their peers in both orchestra and band. However, due to an increase in vocal music enrollment, which is wonderful news for our OSD and Oregon communities, the small group learning opportunities for vocal music students at the middle school will decrease by 50% next year, meaning that students will no longer have weekly small group lessons, but will instead have them every other week. This stacks another inequity on our most vulnerable students who cannot afford private voice lessons. My daughter Brady wanted to be here tonight, and was prepared to speak, but wasn't able to be here. So I just thought I'd share a couple of the sentences that she wrote about what the vocal music classes, and in particular small group opportunities within the vocal music program, have meant to her. So she wrote, "It's important to have a special relationship with your choir teacher. Even if it's not one-on-one, a small group can even help boost a relationship and help the student better understand their teacher, as well as the teacher understand what tools to give their student to help them succeed. Second, choir small groups, for me, helps me better understand the music we are preparing, as well as work on specific techniques used in the song." So after reading what she wrote, I was compelled to end my time tonight by reflecting on the OSD's mission statement, which reads in part,
Ruth, we just have a couple more seconds.
Okay,
Go ahead.
thank you. The mission of the Oregon School District. And then I just wanted to say, our strong tradition of supporting the arts in our school district has provided this opportunity to countless learners in our district by giving them a place to belong and express themselves freely. As enrollment in our vocal music program continues to increase, let's give our kids and community the resources it needs to continue this strong and proud tradition. Please consider this 0.25 FTE increase for the vocal music program. Thank you all very much.
All right, thank you. Next up is Lori Fellens.
Good evening. My address is 169 South Oak Street, Oregon. My name is Lori Fellens, and I am an Oregon Choral Booster parent and a parent of 3. My youngest is currently a junior at OHS, and my older 2 have graduated from Oregon. All 3 identify as musicians, but I'm aware that they've had vastly different amounts of time allocated to their music education in Oregon based primarily on their instrument choice. My son was an upright bass player in orchestra. He received allocated large group and small group learning throughout his middle school and his high school years here. However, my older daughter, a flute player, no longer received allocated small group learning once she was in high school. It's the experience of my current junior and her choral peers that's most troubling because they've received little allocated small group time in middle or high school. Interestingly, my career is in music education and educational administration. I'm the executive director of Wisconsin School Music Association and Wisconsin Music Educators Association, so I'm deeply aware of the strengths and complexities that are faced by our school districts when it comes to access, funding, and allocation. So as a parent, taxpayer, and music education professional, there's a key observation. It's that an initial step you could take towards this equity issue in K-8 is simply to approve the 1/4 of one full-time position, a 0.25 FTE, because it appears to stand in the way currently of curricular alignment for students in 3 schools. 1/4 of one full-time position stands in the way of equitable learning for students who use voice as their instrument in comparison to peers who use a wind, string, or percussion instrument. And this is a significant equity issue for students who receive this education, and was pointed out by the previous speaker, some of our more vulnerable students who may not be able to afford private instruction. A 0.25 increase in vocal music staffing would allow Oregon middle school students full-time access to their music teacher. It would provide students at Rome Corners and Forest Edge a music educator who's employed full-time and could align curriculum service for both schools. And there is a music teacher in the district who already holds a 0.75 FTE who theoretically could assume the additional Rome Corners allocation, and no new hire would be necessary. This may also be a great way to keep a highly qualified educator in a district, since vacancies for full-time positions in this area are on the rise. I'm a proud Oregon resident. Our family highly values the exceptional music educators in Oregon, and I'm just wanting to ask that you consider approving this .25 allocation. This won't solve the issue of small group instruction at the high school yet, but this would position Oregon's K-12 curricular sequence one step closer to that possibility. So I just want you to know how much I appreciate you all for your service and for providing the opportunity to speak today. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. All right, is anyone else here for public comment? Anyone else here for public comment? Okay, moving on to 2, which is OEA report. Is anyone here for the OEA? All right, and then we do not have any students with us here tonight, so we're going to move into D, action items, which the first is issuance of the 24-25 teacher contracts. So I'll turn that over to Dr. Bergstrom.
Thank you. And the contracts, I will turn over to our HR director.
Thank you. So we are seeking approval from the board tonight to issue contracts to our teachers represented by the Oregon Education Association. The timeline is prescribed by state law. So we would, by state law, we need to have contracts out by the end of April, and then our absolute deadline is no later than May 15th, and then teachers have until June 15th to return them, although we do ask that people return them as soon as they have made a decision because it helps us with staffing and filling those positions quicker. The board did approve a staffing plan on at the March 11th meeting, and so we would only issue contracts to teachers in accordance with that staffing plan, and we do not give contracts to teachers who have submitted their retirement or resignation, or to those teachers on interim contracts, because those positions, if they're going to be filled, need to be posted and go through the application process. So with that, I would entertain questions.
All right, we have any clarifying questions for Ms. Jonan? All right, seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion to approve the, I'll make the motion to approve the issuance of the educator contracts for 24-25.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, seeing none. Katie, could you please call the roll?
Dr. Lakuta,
Yes.
Dr. Bush,
Yes.
Ms. Bijak,
Yes.
Mr. Pankratz,
Yes.
Ms. Flanagan.
Yes, motion carries 5-0. You may issue the teacher contracts. Moving on to licensed non-represented. Back to you, Gina.
So we would be seeking board approval to issue contracts for those teachers who are certified educators by the Department of Public Instruction, but not covered under the OEA collective bargaining agreement. So we call that group the licensed but non-represented group. And so that would be positions such as our school psychologist, school nurse, occupational therapist, etc. And so we follow the same timeline under state law that we do for our educators so that everybody is treated consistently. So with that, I would entertain questions.
All right, any clarifying questions on those contracts? Okay, seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve the issuance of contracts for the eligible licensed non-represented staff for the 24-25 school year.
All right, do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, seeing or hearing none, Katie, could you please call the roll?
Mr. Pankratz,
Yes.
Dr. Bush,
Yes.
Ms. Bijak,
Yes.
Dr. Lakuta, Ms. Flanagan.
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Moving on to 24 through 26 administrator contracts, and so noted administrators do have a 2-year contract where the other contracts are 1 year. So back to you, Gina.
Yes, thank you. And so I should point out too that the fact that teachers and licensed non-rep have a 1-year contract is mandated by state law, and that administrators have a 2-year contract is something that is allowed by state law. So that is why there is a difference. And so we would similarly issue contracts to administrators during that time period in accordance with the staffing plan and other direction by the board.
Okay, any clarifying questions for Gina on administrator contracts? Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to recommend approval of the issuance of 2024 to 2026 administrator contracts.
Is there a second? All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, hearing none. Katie, could you please call the roll?
Ms. Bijak?
Yes.
Dr. Lakuta?
Yes.
Dr. Bush?
Yes.
Mr. Pankratz?
Yes.
Ms. Flanagan.
Yes, motion carries 5-0. All right, thanks everyone. We have contracts for next year. Moving on to action item 4, which is 24-25 capital maintenance projects. So I believe I will turn that over to Mr. Weiland. The floor is yours, Andy.
Thank you. I'm going to introduce actually Zane Heights, our Director of Buildings and Grounds, to talk through the projects actually that we completed this year, as well as proposed projects for next year. I do want to make one minor correction on the agenda item that I wrote last week, is that I had mentioned that we have a revenue source that would be considered a deductible receipt. We actually followed up with DPI today and found out that it would not be a deductible receipt. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that funding source, but that really wasn't a component of what we're looking for approval tonight. It's just some background information. So I wanted to make sure that was clear that we did find that out. And with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Heights.
All right. So like Andy said, we'll go ahead and we can kind of go through the PowerPoint of the projects we completed last year. Sorry. Do I need a clicker? Okay. Thanks. So we'll kind of go school by school. Unfortunately, the satellite did not come back over the school after we did this roofing project, but we did a roofing project in Brooklyn. It was over the gym and kind of the first, second, third grade hallway. So you can kind of classrooms. You can kind of see there what is highlighted. Team effort. Rome Corners, we actually extended the sidewalk around the bus loop all the way around the bus loop and back out to South Burr Oak. It accommodated actually kind of multiple things. Number one, letting kids safely stand on the sidewalk all the way around to get on and off the bus. But then kids that come from down kind of the hill don't have to go all the way up to the corner or trudge through the bus loop or the snow to actually take a sidewalk all the way into school. So. We also expanded a restroom that was in a special ed classroom to allow for a larger changing table that helps both the student and the staff meet the needs of our students there at that school. And I think it's worked out great. The teachers that were in there when I took these pictures were very thankful for it, for both themselves and for the students. So. The middle school, we took care of the front parking lot area, kind of or the parent parking kind of drop off loop there. So that was a large project we took care of there. Here at the high school, we took care of the roof over the field house and then a small section that was over the weight room as well. Wrestling room. And then on the books for last year was replacing carpet in a handful of the kind of business classrooms. Unfortunately, when we went to do this project after summer school last year, we realized that underneath the carpet is tile, and underneath the tile is unfortunately a mastic that glued the tile down that did have asbestos in it, and we did not have time to meet all the DNR procedures and get it all set up to get it properly dealt with. It's not a health concern at all. It's all encapsulated. It's all in good shape. So we just laid the carpet back down, and we'll get that taken care of right when school is done here in June. So that project will actually still get done in this fiscal year, right after school's out. Out here at the track, we actually did a handful of things, patched some larger holes in the surfacing throughout. We actually redid lane 1 because that's where 90% of all the running is done, and then got a fresh coat of paint on all the lines, markings, and lane numbers. So the pool lobby got a little bit of a refresh. We pulled the old hard floor out and actually put a large section of walk-off mat in the front. Typically, you'll see there was rugs all over the place, so it's worked out very well as people are coming in, especially during the winters, to the front desk, to both locker rooms. So that went very well. And then we totally completed upgrading every single building to our current HVAC control system. So everything is now on the latest, greatest technology, which has actually been great for me and Sherry to be able to look through things, have everything updated, have everything correct, and hopefully better efficiently take care of heating and cooling the buildings.
I'll just jump in real quick. It also helped from a security point of view because the old system was on old servers that weren't being maintained and patched by Microsoft anymore. So now we are much more secure than we were before.
Does anybody have any questions for Zane about 23-24 projects before we move on to 24-25? Okay.
All right, so for this year, the first page here is some things over at Netherwood. I know you guys have seen this one before, but the roof over the big gym and the orchestra room is going to get replaced. We've already got that contract out the door, and that's set to be done this summer. We're also looking to replace the main office and also the main vestibule into Netherwood flooring. Again, we'll pull out a lot of the hard surface in the entryway and kind of the walkway, doing some walk-off mat, and then new carpet in the offices and kind of the back hallway. Also at Netherwood, we've got a couple kitchen projects. The lights in the kitchen weren't converted to LEDs when the rest of the building was, just because I believe that was still being used during the summer for making meals for kind of during the COVID time. So we want to get that taken care of. There's also some old original drain lines that are definitely at the end of their life cycle on the back wall that we will be taking care of. And then we're going to be looking to spend some money to do the design, architecture, and engineering of kind of updating the kindergarten rooms in that area. It's going to be a larger project that's going to be looked at in the future, but we're going to have to get ahead of it with getting the designs done, all the state approvals, all the local approvals, and permitting before we can kind of move on to the construction piece. At Prairie View, we're looking to redo the bus lot / parking lot area. There'll be a couple other projects that'll kind of coincide with that, kind of get wrapped up in there. There's two big roof drains that come off the roof when it was added that actually drain onto the pavement. We're going to bury those and direct drain it so then the water isn't constantly sheeting across the asphalt, freezing and thawing, during the fall and the winter and causing safety hazards. And anybody that's parked back there knows that parking lot is definitely in need of some TLC. So a couple Brooklyn projects. There is a, nobody really knows why, kind of old concrete slab that's always been on the kindergarten playground. And somebody finally said, can we do something about it? I said, absolutely. That makes no sense to be there. So we'll get that removed for the kids. And then we also have some cabinet sink replacements in room A104 that'll just get an update. Over at Rome Corners, we're going to look to start doing some LED fixtures. This is a twofold piece. This is some energy savings, but also those are about 20-year-old fixtures, and there's really not parts and pieces available anymore. So we'll probably get 2 of the areas done, saving the parts and pieces we need to be able to use in the future if we need to make replacements in any of the other areas. Over at the middle school, we've got some original water heaters that are going to get replaced. We've got some LED lights up in the library ceiling. Those are very difficult to maintain because of how tall they are, and with the bookshelves and everything in the way, this is going to be very helpful for Doug in the future not to have to worry about changing those light bulbs out. And then we do have some of the HVAC equipment is on its last leg / failed at the middle school. So we're looking to kind of make some updates there just to make sure that we keep our capacity needed on those hot days and keep everybody cool there. So here at the high school, we got a couple smaller projects. Door 11, which is one of the kind of main student entrances for the kids that park in the far lot and come in on the bus. Want to remove some of the old flooring and some old tile and put walk-off mat there for safety reasons. Clean up the ceiling upstairs, the stairs that go up to the wrestling room. And then, of course, it snowed when I wanted to take my picture. But if the snow isn't there, or maybe when you walk out, you'll be shocked to hear this, that the kids just kind of take the fastest route to the main door. So where the snow is, there's actually a path where nothing grows and the mulch gets kicked off. So might as well just put a path there so we can safely keep it there for them, and we don't have to worry about them going through the plants anymore. So that does equal out to almost the $850,000 budget we have. There is $5,000 or $6,000 that kind of falls into a contingency fund for those projects as well.
All right, I will open the floor for questions for Zane. Go ahead, Mary.
So in what was done, or almost done, last year, There was mastic that you mentioned that
Yep.
has asbestos. And obviously it was unknown to us at that point. How likely are we to find any asbestos in any of these projects, like the door, I think 11?
We should be in pretty good shape on the rest of these. I think we were pretty surprised that we actually found something there. I probably could have won lunch off Andy if I would have bet him before I told him about it. Most of it has been dealt with. So,
Okay,
yes, I think we're in really good shape.
thank you.
Any other questions?
On the bus parking lot, I don't know if you can go back to that slide. I'm just curious, does that entire parking lot get utilized for buses and passenger car parking? I guess my point is, do we need that much impervious area?
We actually kicked this around a little bit because one of my suggestions was shrinking that down a little bit. And then me and Andy kind of kicked around like, how big does it have to be or need to be? It is quite large because that is the bus pickup and drop off for both Prairie View and Netherwood. So buses unfortunately don't make the tightest turn. So there has to be a decent amount left over. As being a great community member, that's also where obviously they set up for Summerfest. And that does get pretty well used as well. So we are looking at different ideas because of how much space it is on what we can maybe do there for different fields or courts or something on there that are lined and painted to maybe have that be able to get used more year round. I know actually a couple sports have approached me about like, hey, can we paint this field on there so that maybe if the grass is a little bit wet, we can still do something if it's, warm enough and clear enough. So.
Yep, I was just curious. It sounds like you guys have talked about some options. So, but anytime we can minimize pavement, it saves us money in the long term.
If you look at the entrance to that area, actually, a number of years ago, we had to replace that, and we did do that, and you'll see actually some gravel on the south side that's left over from kind of shortening that up.
Any other questions? Andy, I think it just would be helpful just to, if you could just give a brief statement about the importance of these projects and the $850,000 that we allocate to it. I think that's really good for the community to hear just in terms of where we've come to with that and why it's so important in the financial sense of the district.
Do you want the whole history, a little bit
No,
of the
I
history?
think just a shortened version is fine.
Okay. I'm the
Your
historian
elevator
here.
speech on the importance of maintenance projects and why we're allocating that money. How's
Okay.
that? Is that better?
All right. Yeah. Sure. I think our community has high expectations as far as maintaining our buildings and our facilities. I think also our staff, and we are constantly assessing how do we make sure that our students and our staff have safe and comfortable places for us to learn. Because if you don't take care of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, so to speak, it's really hard to get to that next level and be able to retain the information that we're trying to teach and develop the skills that we want our students to build upon. So we take that very seriously. We have added a fair amount of square footage over the last several years, and unfortunately costs have not gone down, they've gone up. So it is very important to maintain that budget, and appreciate the board's support over the last year where we actually added a little bit of money to that fund so that we can try to keep up everything as it needs to be. Is that what you wanted me to say?
Sorry for putting you on the spot. And, and that was part of a referendum question that this community did give us their vote of how important its maintenance projects are to them. And so we know what happens when districts and communities don't have those funds. So we're very appreciative of them. And it's a really important aspect of this district in keeping our facilities in usage. So I appreciate you saying that. All right, I will entertain a motion to approve the capital maintenance projects for 24-25.
I'll move to approve the 24-25 capital maintenance projects.
Is there a second? All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion or statement about capital maintenance? All right, hearing none, Katie, could you please call the roll?
Dr. Lakuta? Yes. Mr. Pankratz? Yes. Ms. Bijak? Yes. Dr. Bush?
Yes.
Ms. Flanagan?
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Zane.
Yep, thank you.
It's a great presentation, and thank you for all that information. Okay, we are done with action items, so we're moving on to E, discussion items, which is committee reports. As I think many people are familiar, the board has moved into a committee of the whole structure for this year. So prior to this meeting, that committee of the whole meeting was on capital maintenance and sustainability. So those subjects will be coming forward as they move into policy and visioning with the board and future projects. So we'll keep everyone up to date on that. Moving to F, information items. 1, visioning and strategic planning, then teaching and learning and superintendent's report. So Dr. Bergstrom, the floor is yours.
Thank you. As we move through the visioning and strategic planning process, we are currently in the process to find a date for the administrator and board workshop that usually happens every spring, where we review and revise the school district's our priorities. Are there any small changes that we need to make? Is there anything that needs to be added, etc.? So stay tuned for what date works best for that. This is a really important part of our yearly process, not just the opportunity for the board and the admin to have these conversations, but right now is when the schools are also starting to see the fruits of their labor and how well students are growing academically and social emotionally as we move toward the end of the year. And I'm very, very excited to see end of year panorama results, STAR results, and certainly the forward, because our young ones are in the midst of that right now. And you can see these are the priorities we'll be examining when we have our annual board workshop. And from these priorities come these goals. And these are the goals that each of us at the district office are working on, and these are the goals that our schools are always in pursuit of, particularly numbers 1 and 2, although they certainly do an awful lot related to number 4 too. And when all of those things are going well, then we're also able to retain and recruit. If you haven't noticed, there's an interconnected nature to these goals. And now for the superintendent's report. Our kids were pretty excited today. I want to start out with something that is obviously very timely, and it's this afternoon's eclipse. So this event presented great educational opportunities for students. Some classes around the district went out to view the eclipse, of course, with the approved glasses. So if you had a chance to see it when you had the glasses on, it was really something to behold. Also, last week was Associate Principal Week, a time to celebrate the amazing people who have the title Associate Principal or Administrative Intern in our district. We're very appreciative of our team because these are very often the people who are working extraordinarily closely with our students, supporting them in all aspects of their decision making and how they move through the day. So we are so fortunate to have the team we have, and I can't say enough about them and what they do for kids. Last week, we also had National School Librarian Day, and we're very thankful for our school librarians who dedicate countless hours to maintaining our libraries and ensuring it's a welcoming space filled with resources for our students. We really appreciate you. And congratulations to Kelly Massey. She's the Herb Cole Education Foundation Teacher Fellow for 2024. And we're really proud of her. So congratulations to Kelly. She's the Brooklyn Elementary School counselor. She was recently selected as one of the Teacher Fellows, and she was chosen for this honor based on her skill as a leader, agent for positive change, and efforts to inspire love of learning. We're also, once again, really fortunate to have Kelly on the team. And then one of our newest high school educators, he just started with us this year, and already Evan Bonsall recently presented at the Wisconsin Council for Social Studies Conference in Madison on using parliamentary procedure in his political science class. He invited me in earlier this year, and I was extraordinarily impressed with our students' ability to use parliamentary procedure when they were only a few weeks into the school year. It made me feel, oh, I have to brush up. These kids learned it very quickly. So he uses parliamentary procedure to conduct class and facilitate discussion on public policy starting the very first day of class. So this gives all students an equal opportunity to participate in class, elevates the voices and viewpoints of students, and equips students with the skills to have civil, productive discussions on complex and controversial issues. And we all know that we could absolutely, as a society, use more people who are able to do that. They hold debates, vote on resolutions, and eventually write their own bills to solve public policy problems in the community or a country. So this has been a really impactful way for Mr. Bonsall to help students understand their role in the creation or in being active citizens, in being an informed citizenry and having civil discussions. So thank you for him and being a leader in this field and designing this really great work. Our Prairie View students, they're practicing empathy. So the students in Miss Murphy's Prairie View class have been discussing empathy and what it is, how to recognize it, and the need for it in others, how someone might feel, and how to show empathy for them. They recently identified someone at school they want to recognize and wrote and illustrated a letter expressing their empathy to that person. What an important skill to develop. We're really proud of you. And we have some new books at Prairie View too. Oh, you can see the kids are smelling new books. Third grade students in Miss Leinhardt's class at Prairie View couldn't resist taking a few moments to smell some of the new books that have been added to their classroom library. They also love the sound of a book being cracked open for the very first time. And then we have Youth Art Celebration Month. So Youth Art Month ended with the State Art Show celebration in Easttown Mall on March 22nd. So congratulations to Sylvie Copling, Bo Inman, Greta Gerlach for representing Netherwood Knoll Elementary at the state level. Greta received a state award and a gift of art supplies from Easttown Mall for her creativity. Miss Slattery's kindergarten class at Brooklyn displayed their acting and singing talents when they performed A House for Hermit Crab for their family and staff. Great job, performers. Every third grade student in the Oregon School District recently received their very own dictionary from the Dictionary Project as a tool to support their literacy and language skills. This photo is showcasing students in Miss Winterberg's class at Forest Edge who are really excited about their new resource. Learning about defense mechanisms. So, fourth grade students in Miss Onsager's classroom at Prairie View have been learning about and researching animal defense mechanisms in class. So with this new information and discoveries, each fourth grade student authored a choose your own adventure story to read and share with first graders in Miss Merrill's class. We love this engaging and empowering learning experience. Keep up the good work. And our Oregon middle school students, this was so cool. It was last week. They were part of a special event called Engage and Grow. It's a whole afternoon to celebrate their hard work and efforts on the forward exam. So during this time, students had the opportunity to select 3 different activities that were stationed around the school. Examples of activities included board games, mindfulness coloring, crocheting, working with clay, puzzles, art projects, improv. That would have been fun to see. A 5K race and more. So thanks to our fantastic OMS educators for offering an afternoon of learning and team building for our students. And then congratulations to the Oregon School District musicians who participated in this year's Wisconsin School Music Association Solo and Ensemble Festival. We love hearing your music and watching you perform. And speaking of perform, our Oregon middle school students are working hard to get ready for the production of Mary Poppins Jr. From creating the set to musical numbers, this is going to be a fun show to see. The show is April 26th and 27th, and you can find your tickets at OregonPerformingArtsCenter.com. And then Mr. Zerck is at it again, and this year he enlisted Officer Shuey for reinforcement. Each year, Mr. Zerck takes to the grill and prepares a special lunch for Oregon middle school students. Where else would you find an associate principal who goes to such lengths, literally, to serve students? Looks like, oh, yeah, there's one on the ground, so it looks like they lost one in the process. And then congratulations to Oregon High School student Mary Jo Summers, who was recently named Student Initiative Scholar by the Cole Educational Foundation. Mary Jo will receive a scholarship as part of this honor. We're really proud of you, Mary Jo. And Miss Cheyenne Johnson, who has been a frequent member of the OST podcast. She's been on twice, I think, now. She is a senior member of Oregon FFA, and she was recently named gold-rated state finalist for the Wisconsin FFA Veterinary Science Proficiency Award. This award is given to FFA members who excel in their demonstration of critical skills, competencies, and knowledge in a given field of agriculture. Cheyenne is one out of 5 finalists across the state in veterinary science. So Cheyenne currently works at Country Equine Veterinary Clinic, where she is acquiring the skills and competencies and knowledge of the veterinary industry. So a huge thank you to Dr. Judy Batker and the entire staff of Country View Equine Clinic for helping Cheyenne grow and develop in this field. And finally, remember to tune in to the OST podcast. You can find all episodes at oregonsd.org/podcast. And the most recent one, and Cheyenne was in this one, features our career and technical education program at the high school, where we spoke with our school to career coordinator at OHS, as well as some students who are involved in great opportunities in our program. This is a must-listen-to episode because for our high school students and families. Because if you are interested in amazing opportunities at the high school, it would be good to invest the 15 minutes to listen to our students talk about what those opportunities have afforded them in their experience. So we have some good episodes launching weekly, and you don't want to miss them. So the best way to do it is subscribe. And that's it.
All right, great, thank you. Moving on to G, closing future agenda. Our next meeting is April 22nd, so that is our reorganization meeting where the board elects officers for the next year. And then I do think we also have some other important things on our agenda that evening. Moving on to 2 is checkout. One is I just want to start with election results. So I want to congratulate Dr. Mary Lakuta and Troy Pancratz on their reelection. Mary was reelected to Area 1 with 3,761 votes, and then Troy was reelected to Area 3 with 3,721 votes. So congratulations on your next 3-year term. Thank you for serving and running for reelection. All right, we'll move around the horn for checkout. Troy, anything? Mary?
I do, actually. So if we had had a student report, I'm sure they would have mentioned that today was the kickoff for Fine Arts Week. And I wanted to mention that, so my son graduated in 2017, and he has since graduated from Berklee College of Music as a drum set performance major, percussion performance major. And so he's in several bands and travels widely for those, but they were brought in for the headliners, to be the headliners for Fine Arts Week, and they performed this morning. And after the 2 performances, they then had the opportunity to talk to all of the high school music students. And these are all current and former Berklee students. So, you know, Berklee is a very well respected music college. They were very impressed with the students' questions to them. And I just wanted to call that out because, you know, it's due to the strength of our music education in our district. And I just want to give kudos to our music educators. So.
Thanks, Mary. Caleb, anything?
Yeah, just briefly, I wanted to talk about the eclipse. I came home today, and our house, our backyard is basically abuts Brooklyn Elementary. And we went out to look at the eclipse, and I have to just comment that it was really cool to see all of the Brooklyn kids out in the all the open areas and around the school, also out looking at the eclipse. It was just really neat, and I just wanted to comment on that and talk about how it kind of added to our experience with the eclipse. It's kind of like we were watching the eclipse with a bunch of elementary school kids, which was kind of cool. So that was neat.
Anna, anything? Okay, it is 7:18. We'll take about a 5-minute little break, and then the board will reconvene in closed session. Thanks, everyone.